Hi, I'm Kira Banks, and I'm introducing a new series that I'm calling Raising Equity. And it really spurs from some of my recent work that I've done with the Ferguson Commission and Forward Through Ferguson on how to help institutions think about being equitable. And I've written manuals and helped organizations take those steps towards how they get to equity. But in my series on YouTube, I've had a lot of questions about children. And some of my most popular entries have been responses to the post where I talk about my kids and what it's like to raise equity. And I mixed that with this idea that I had when I had children, that what was going to get me through was prayer and wine. And so I'm inviting you all to join me in this new series, Raising Equity, as we think about what it means to, on purpose and with intention, raise children for a more equitable society. So equity has become a buzzword, and I define it elsewhere, but the gist is that it's a place where all institutions are working in similar ways for folks across different identities. And we want to raise our children to create equity. We want to raise them for equity. We want to raise equitable kids. You might have heard people say, oh, things will be right when all the fill in the blank die off, as if it's people who get old and die off that will mean change in the world. And that's backwards, because those institutions that create, manage, and distribute resources for us, those socializing agents like media, the schools, society, they shape our ideas. And regardless of what individuals are in the positions, those systems keep going. So if we don't intentionally raise our children for equity, then they'll grow up to be those people someone will hope die off. It has to be intentional. So this series is about thinking about what does it look like to raise children for equity? What does it look like to have intentionality around how we speak to them, what we expose them to, what knowledge they have, what they're ready to do when they step into the world, so they don't have to unlearn a lot of stuff. Now, let's be real. They'll still have to unlearn a lot of stuff, because it's not like we're going to go to another island and start a whole new world. So we've got to raise children that can be astute in understanding the systems that are working and how they can interrupt them. All of that brings me to this series, that I want us to have a space where we think intentionally about raising equity. To be honest, we will bump up against more questions than we will have answers, but it's also important for us to be in community together. And so join me. Bring your questions, your concerns, your successes, and let's think about how we raise equity.